The issue or the topic is the challenges of ex-offenders re-entering free world or free society. And of course, we have to talk about these challenges. The founder of the Hands of God Christian Ministry, Reverend Pastor KWalker. And of course, Reverend Walker, let me again give you an opportunity to talk about some of the other challenges. I think you've identified the inability of individuals being incarcerated when they leave the system to have some kind of adequate identification. So let's talk about whatever else you have to say in reference to that as well as other challenges.
Okay, well, here's what it leads to. Here's where the frustration really comes in. A guy comes out of the prison system. He doesn't have any identification. Okay, now chances are you don't have any clothing or anything like that. Now, places like Salvation Army and some other places may give you a clothing voucher, but if you can't identify yourself, they won't give it to you. Some of the Second Harvest Food Bank satellite location will give you a box of food, but if you can't identify yourself, then you can't get it. So now you're frustrated. You get out, you can't get any clothes, you can't get any food, and we bring them into our program. We have a structured ministry program that they come out into our program. They're mandated by the parole system. They stay there a minimum of 90 days, and we try to help them to get back into the flow. So if you don't have clothes to wear, you don't have food to eat, and then if you don't have ID, then you can't meet the requirements of the INS form they have to fill out in order for you to be hired on a job. So now you're frustrated. You can't have any clothes. You can't get any food, and then you can't get a job. And at the same time, at some point, you know, our first weekend is at no cost, but at some point, then your program fees start to build. Now you're in a situation where I got to try to get my identification, then I've got to get a job, then I got to wait to get paid. Now I got the frustration of knowing I've got a debt already on me when I get out. So now I'm frustrated. And a lot of people will revert back if you don't have that structure for them to help them to keep pushing forward in that situation.
Well, you know, again, I guess the only thing I can say about that is that it's just curious and it's strange that as interested as the state ought to be that every individual have some kind of identification.
Absolutely.
To allow these individuals to have, I think that's probably an oversight on the part of many people.
Well, I guess, Dr. Haney,
because there's no rationale,
no, it's not.
And it's hard to find a motive for it.
Right, because you can walk around the prison system for 5, 10, 15, 20 years with identification, and then the day you come out the door, they take the ID from you. It's kind of like, okay, nobody needs to know who you are when you come out, but we need to know who you are while you're in here. Okay. And it just don't make sense. And there's a lot of issues, you know, that comes just as a result of that one particular issue.
Of identification.
Because and you know, I deal with these guys all the time, and they come into our program, and you want to try to help them get on their feet. You want to get them involved in some program, help them restructure their life. And people need to understand that people go in the prison system. Now, everybody that goes in and comes out, they have not had any part of anything taking place in their life in terms of becoming a better person or being rehabilitated, I should say. But then you got those individuals that really want to change their lives. But then if you create frustration for them coming out the door, then you are increasing their chances of being reincarcerated back in the system. And another thing, Dr. Haney, I hate to switch gears, but it's another thing that's on me, and that is the parole system that's in place now, and some of the criteria that they use to determine whether or not an individual will be paroled back into society. I mean, you got a situation where you take an individual, and I know one guy personally, I met the parole board with a guy named Reginald Williams. Met the parole board with him, man, this guy, man, he's on work release, he's working. I mean, he's in position himself to be able to, in the process of going into business for himself. You know, he's gone through the cosmetology school, he's a licensed professional barber. As a matter of fact, he's my personal barber. And he's completed all the program. We started an organization at one time behind the wall, behind the fences at River Bend. And he had completed that particular program and some other programs, got his GED. And when he goes to parole board, the hearing officer recommends him for parole, but when he gets his votes back, then they put him off for another 2 years. And that's ridiculous. I mean, what is it that you want a person to do before you let him out? And the reason for that was seriousness of the offense. Now, Dr. Haney, here it is, 10, 11, 12 years has passed since the offense occurred. Now, of course, the offense was serious enough to get him incarcerated, and I don't care 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, it's going to still be serious.
Same serious offense.
So, what's the rationale behind that? You know, the person is definitely somebody that's ready for society, has proven himself ready for society, but yet we're not allowing them to come back into society. And the signal needs to be changed. You know, we take the individual, we follow them from the crime scene through the courtroom scene, all the way through to the gates of the prison system, and then from there we drop them off. Nobody is interested in the individual that gets in the system, develops themselves while in the system, has made a determination to be someone other than they were when they went in. Nobody cares about that individual. We happen to care. You know, I know, Dr. Haney, I've been there myself. I spent time in the prison system. I spent 17 years a drug addict in my life. And I know how it is to face all these different challenges and frustrations in life. People don't realize when you're incarcerated, you don't have the luxury that, and it's a luxury. You don't have the luxury of walking up and down the aisles of Kroger and shopping. You don't get that. And so you got people that's been incarcerated 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and I've known them to do that and get out. Then they got to come back in and they got to make this transition back into society. So my thing is, why put added frustration on the individual that already has enough frustration lying ahead of them, and no matter how much knowledge they've gained while incarcerated, they still got to come out and learn how to put that knowledge into practice in a whole different setting. Because one thing happens when you get out of prison, and I know this from experience, life speeds up. Prison life is a tough life, it's a terrible life, but it's at a slower pace. When you get out of prison, life, you get in the mainstream of society, life accelerates.
You're literally in the mainstream.
Yeah, you're there. Yeah, you're there, and it accelerates, and then you're trying to figure out, and then you got this frustration of knowing that I've developed all these things. I got these job skills, I've got this commercial cleaning certificates, and all these things. I've learned some computer stuff, but when I go out to get the job, I finally do get to the table and I sit down at the interview, and then they tell me, well, you know, you got all the qualifications, you're a great guy, I love your personality, I believe you will be good for the company, but our policy won't allow us to hire you because you're an ex-offender. I mean, who gives these people the chances? You know, and I can say we because I'm one of those people that has been incarcerated, that is an ex-offender, you know, and I'm proof positive that we do change. But who's the individual? Who's the company owner? Who's the individual that gives these individuals the chance when they come out to prove that they are changed people and that they can fit into our society?
In other words, there is no rehabilitation effort, any rehabilitation belief under that kind of system. Is that what we're saying?
The current system that we have in place under Quentin White, I think they're doing more things now toward programs.
Okay, and of course, let me take this break, and we'll be back following this very, very short commercial break. We're talking to Pastor Kevin.